Welcome to the Coffee with COVID-19 podcast. My name is Patrick Rolfe, and this is an ongoing media project where we use conversations with some of the leading entrepreneurs and thinkers within the coffee industry to try to understand a sustainable way through living together with our new reality, COVID-19. Welcome back to another episode of Coffee with COVID-19. We're here to discuss with different parts of the value chain in regards to how we're dealing with our new reality, which is living with COVID-19. The last months for the coffee industry has been some of the most challenging months we ever gone through, at least in modern times. And what we're trying to do here is to lay a groundwork and a foundation for how we as an industry can come out of this stronger, and also share insights in how we're actually dealing with something that is very present. It's right here, it's right now, and we want to share professional stories so that you can help to overcome this and come out on the other side on the stronger. And with this episode, which we're really excited about, she's been on the podcast before, Joanna from Drop Coffee, with us from the UK today. How are you?
Hi, Patrick. Yeah, I'm well, and I'm so happy to say I'm well. Like, this has been the most challenging month in running a business for 10 years. This has absolutely been the biggest challenge. So I'm very happy to sit here with you today and reflect a little bit on it.
And we're very excited to have you with us. And as you mentioned here, like it's a perfect time for reflections, right? As you say, it's been like some of us has been having businesses for a long time, and this is unprecedented times. Like, we're going through challenges we haven't faced before, and as an industry, it's important to come together and discuss this so that we can come out on the other side. One of the things I want to start to look into, obviously knowing that Drop Coffee is from Sweden as well, or based in Stockholm, and we all know Sweden has taken a slightly different route than other countries going through this kind of phase. I want to first try to understand what was your kind of initial thoughts? When did you first hear about this, and how did you reacted at the very beginning of this process?
I do, like, I remember back in January, like, hearing about COVID and more like the virus happening in China, and me being a little bit like hypochondriacal. Like, I always notice those things. But I was actually, like, in the big outbreak, I was in Central America together with my now fiance, Steven. And we first we had been in Nicaragua. We were going to Guatemala, and then further on to El Salvador. And as we came to El Salvador was closing down, and it was a bit like it came, like, it all happened so quickly. And I remember we were with Carmen Rafael da Silva, behind many from Sea Cafe, behind many good coffees, and we're gonna do a cupping, and we just like, no, this just doesn't feel right. Like, shall we really do the protocol that way? Like, everything came from something that almost was made fun of to places locking down. And in El Salvador, then it was barely, like, no cases, and people were mainly going to the beach. And yeah, was a week. I should know the date, but I meant that this is in end of February. But you can check that. And yeah, things are happening fast. It feels so vast and so far away to think about it now. But yeah, and we understood that, whoa, maybe US are gonna actually close down, and we were gonna fly home through US. So it was all of the logistic and trying to find a new route to do the actual trip for setting routines for the cafe on the laptop in the morning, like meetings, trying to get a grasp of everything and just digest it from a far distance. And then I understood the idea was that I was gonna go back to England to go to a retreat. Stephen is living in England, but instead it was just like that gut feeling, like, no, this is big, like I need to go home. But still on that, with the re-trip we did, we were instead flying through Colombia. Turns out we left the very last evening. It was flight out of El Salvador. And as we left Colombia, I was on the airport and looking for masks. And I was like, I really feel like I should carry a mask. And Steve at that point, like laughing at me, like with my hypochondria, and we met a lot of other people. And it was just that, like nobody had directions what to do. How dangerous is this really, and what's happening? But I flew home, and I'm very happy I followed that gut feel, and from then quarantine for 2 weeks, and trying to make some really tough calls for continuing the business.
What's been the main, because I mean, you guys are obviously a internationally renowned coffee roastery with international wholesale. Then you obviously have your local coffee bar in Stockholm as well, and two different businesses. I assume needing two different kind of approaches as well in terms of going through COVID-19. What was some of the first initial decisions you had to take to kind of keep them moving forward?
The toughest one was the cafe. That's carrying, like, a cafe is way more, or at least in the setup I've done, it's more staff driven. Like it's more people involved. It's many shifts. It's a puzzle. Like it's tricky to work out schedule, how you separate. And in the roastery, like starting with that one was actually like easier to set up two different shifts and separate. So we were not then at that point like working together. So we only worked alone and one people at a time in the building, gloves and everything. So the inner bag we have in the box is plastic material, and like all of that were like, okay, wait, it can live on plastic for 3 days. The new research is saying now. It was trying to like the air driven we could fairly easily control, but it was really tricky to control that in the cafe. So in the cafe we were listening to like those press conferences every single day and trying to get the new guidelines and the new directions for it every day. And first thing we did already when I was in El Salvador. I was just like, just remove the cups. Like nobody should touch each other's cups. Like we need to have paper cups and we need to keep distance. That was the first two. But we were allowed to remain open. But it's the weirdest feeling, like being open and you initially like recommend this spread in Sweden was way too big in and like uncontrolled almost. No, I shouldn't say that. It wasn't uncontrolled. It was still at the point where hospitals could control it, but we were struggling a lot with controlling older homes, and it was a massive pressure to the health system, and we should really ensure that it doesn't spread for that reason either. So that balance in remaining open, but also recommending people not to come if they have the tiniest symptoms, and maybe they shouldn't come at all. Like that balance, I remember, is one of the most challenging balance. It's like, should we actually encourage people to come? And which product and in what setup can we recommend them to come and buy? and we had governmental support on something called like a version of short-term allowances. So instead of letting people go, we've been trying to work as far and as long as we really could push with that. So say if the actual, in that case, barista is getting like 98% of the salary, but he or she may only work 60%, and the remaining 40, like this is one of the setup, but the remaining 40, the business owner and the government is then sharing to pay. So I mean, it is a solution to keep staff, but it's extremely costly when you have an income of, we lost at the cafe, like the first weeks were just like, it was just empty. It was nothing happening. It was absolutely quiet. Looking back on it now, it was a drop of maybe 70 to 80% the first 3 months, and then a loss down at 60% from there. So of course, this means that we had way too much staff than we had income for. And on top of that, we are doing 2 coffee bars now in co-working space that decided to like, no, absolutely, let's like, we're closing tomorrow. Like co-working is not what you should do at the moment. So that was 2 more barista shifts. So yeah, I let people go for the first time in ever. I've given somebody a warning or 2 once, like to encourage leaving, but I never let anybody go before this. So it was extremely tough, and in a climate where where they are probably not going to be offered another job. So it was 5 people, 5 positions that needed to be let go of, and 2 have been rehired, and the others, I know they are in a good position. They came from other countries in Europe, so it actually, like, I know everyone is okay, and I feel it feels better now, but it was nothing but anxiety, like those nights and making do those calculations, and it was all about how much money can we lose.
It's an interesting, it was a very challenging situation in the sense that, I mean, as a business owner, I think firing someone or letting someone go is for sure one of the most like toughest decisions we have to make, right? And especially, which we had in other discussions on the podcast as well, when you actually have to tell someone to go, not because they're not doing a good job, but because financially you simply can't deal with the structure of it, right, as a company, which makes it even tougher, right? Have you had a similar reality for the roastery as well? Do you feel there's a difference in how the roastery and the coffee shops have been kind of hit financially going through this? Is either one of them doing kind of better than the other?
Yeah, like I could use different tools for the 2, and I would say that with the roastery, I had easier to find solutions that could work and that saved the situation. The hit, I would say, were from the beginning bigger at the roastery, just like April, we're supplying a lot of people internationally, Europe more or less shutting down, and orders were just, just down with at least 70% in the beginning as well. And we're a tiny team at the roastery. Like we're small. We are not in the like we're not so staff driven that we needed to find other tasks to do. So whilst the cafe, I couldn't, like, looking back on it, I'm sure I'm gonna have like ways where I could see that, wow, we could have done this. Like I looked around and like, oh, can we rent out? to somebody, can we, like, what can we do? Can we do things in the evening, and so on? But really, it was more just like, let's make it just to a smaller version of what it is, and make that will work. So at the roastery, we were very blessed to have more web orders. Like, our web shop is very handmade and not pretty, and like something that would need more more investment. And so I'm just like grateful that people are there ordering coffee and trusting that the product is good. And that support was fantastic. Like, every single web order of those really went straight to the heart, and just like, okay, we have a vision, this is what we're gonna do. So that the web definitely helped. But then I came to the situation with, what do I do with all of the hours? First of all of the raw coffee that is not moving. Like, I always overbuy a bit as well, like tending to do, like, buying, you get so excited and you want to buy as much as you possibly can from everyone. So I was sitting with coffee that I just like calculated, just like, no, this is gonna go old. So we actually had, with one of the supermarkets we had a meeting with, who were gonna do a short-term project for Swedish producer who's producing products who've been hit by COVID, as a like national supporting thing. And that's something that was so out of the comfort zone for me normally. And I didn't blink. Like, when you sit in a meeting and it's just like, this is what I need to do. I need to achieve this. I need to come to this point. Did the best sales negotiations I ever done, and I moved a lot of raw coffee that would just have gone old. So that move saved the roastery so very much, and the roastery and the cafe is actually going under one business. So I'm sitting with our end of year now, and we're going plus this year.
I mean, that's very impressive, right? I think there's very few coffee businesses that are going to be able to pitch that in the end of this year, right? I think I mean, a lot of them, at least on the podcast, what I've heard is that a lot of people like kind of come to terms with the fact that 2020 is not going to be a very good year. We're going to see red numbers. 2021 might be decent, and then they kind of hope to be back on track in 2022, basically, right? So it's quite amazing to hear that there's actually someone that is making money going through this time, or sustainable in that sense, right? And I think it's interesting because I remember seeing the supermarket deal on Instagram as well, right? And I thought that was, I mean, it's a genius move, right? And it's also interesting to see how, for some companies, and again, like we all wish that COVID-19 never happened. I think there's unanimous consensus about that. But there's also interesting to see that some new doors have opened for certain roasteries, right? Like for example, the sales you're talking about now, arguably that would probably not have happened if it wasn't for COVID-19, right? And I'm curious also to think about, is this then something you're gonna continue to do? Or do you feel that it was a kind of a 2020 COVID-19 rescue thing? Or is this now a new opportunity that has kind of grown into something that is gonna allow drop coffee to expand in a different direction as well?
Like, short reply is I would love to. Second thought is that I'm not sure that it's selling enough on the shelves. So I decided to do this with whole beans, like the exact same product that we normally have, roasted in the same way. Instead of, I would say, our roasting style is normally light to medium, and in this case I chose to write medium roast. I spoke to my previous partner to Eric Rosendahl, who's now working in the supermarket business, and he was just like, if you write a light roast of that, you're not gonna sell anything. Just like, don't do that. So I was just like, okay, let's call it medium. And of course, we produced bigger batches, and we produced, like, instead of having 2 months on best before date, we did a 4-month version. So there are compromises, but compromises I felt comfortable with, and was actually good for me to challenge myself with. I think for drop coffee, we got hit with such a hipster stamp early on, and the last at least 7 years I've been really trying to work like with coming out to the people, and that is actually just a good product, and it doesn't mean that you need to belong to a certain, you're very welcome to, but it's not meant to be exclusive for everyone. It's a good product that should be achievable for everyone. And in that sense, a supermarket would be phenomenal. And it's interesting, some shops sold extremely well. I know from Dalarna, for example, more up north in Sweden, where I'm from, we can say that we're selling great. And yeah, you can really see like regions. In Stockholm, of course, we sold very good Gothenburg as well. Yeah, so it's been interesting, and I was just blessed for every pallet they were ordering. I was just, like so relieved and so happy. And if I could continue to do this in a way that more Swedish people were aware of good coffee and talking more about origin, I would love to be on that mission. And I'm very glad we had the opportunity to try it. Like really, really glad we had the opportunity to try it out. So.
Yeah, I mean, and from my personal stand view as well, being Swedish and to some degree still invested in the Swedish coffee scene, I'm gonna argue that we would need more of that, right? Because I think in Sweden, also in other places, but I feel Sweden or Scandinavia in general, there's a quite distinct separation between supermarket coffee and the kind of coffee that we normally do, both of us, right? And I think that's as you say as well, it's completely unnecessary, right? I think everyone likes great coffee. I think the consumer is more educated. I think the consumer wants fair, proper relationship with origin and also quality roasted coffee. So I see it as a great opportunity, and I think it was a very it's an interesting and it's a smart move to do as well, right? And we've seen through COVID-19, also talking to others here, that supermarkets have been doing really well. If there's anyone that has actually gone to, supermarkets love 2020, to some degree. Financially, it's been the best thing they've gone through, most of them. And it's really interesting to see a roastery being able to be as flexible to kind of identify that, okay, but where is coffee moving? I have green coffee, I need that to go out. And you need it to go out not just for yourself, but also for your farmers, right? Because if you're stuck with a bunch of old coffee, you're not going to be able to buy new coffee, right? So I think it's a very respectful action for the whole value chain, right? Where it's basically, it's bigger than just the individual roastery, right? And that's kind of what we need to see as well. And I think it's a good kind of opportunity for us to go into then the green coffee aspect of drop coffee in COVID-19. Do you then, because of this, then I assume you're in a pretty good place and are able to kind of continue your contracts and continue working with the producers you have? Or do you feel that there's still challenges in terms of your current volumes outside of supermarkets?
So this was all Ethiopian. Ethiopia, I moved a lot, and I'm happy with. I still have a little bit of stock, but that's because I thought it would last longer, the project. So, or like we got so many more orders than we thought, so I ended up, so now I'm fairly high on Ethiopia as well, but I bought everything I have committed to, and just having that fresh crop coming in, like to actually like, okay, we're here now, we're here, like this is the way we should be on, and we are on it. Feels really good. And I have been buying, like besides this one farm I'm buying a little bit of coffee from that I didn't manage to do this year, but everyone else I've been like rather just what you're saying, like rather been extra careful, like in making sure to be able to buy, and maybe less trying to overbuy anything, but I definitely been trying to make sure everyone is in. Every single person I look in the eye and say, we're going to take your coffee, we are taking it. So it feels good, and then I know we're in for, like, this is by no point over, and I don't think it will be the exact same, of course, like 2021. No, like it's gonna be different. So we need to find that new rhythm and models that are working. If we look at web orders, like that's great, but for green coffee buying, that means less volume for the same kind of profit you would make on it. So it's definitely many aspects of it, and we see cafes going out of businesses. I see my own cafe still having a drop around 60% from last year. So of course, there is by no point anything that says, hey, we made it. It's we're adapting, and we're finding the new rhythm. So, and you can't plan so far ahead. That's the thing as well. That is just to try to be very present and be here and now. And what can we do? What can we do now? So for the cafe, for example, it's beautiful how many more people, same as you have in Copenhagen, with no tourists coming. It's even more of that local feeling, and you have people coming every single day, to the point where I am like, oh, those stamp cards we had 10 years ago, I need to do something like that. Like, they are really here every day. They need to make like at least 1 out of 20 free. Let's do something. And last, when we offered like one of these super regulars a card like that, they were just like, no, you don't get it. We're here to support, and we are in the position we can do this now, and we want to support you. And it's just those acts, like supporting local and not going to maybe the big change, if you don't have trust in them, is more important than ever.
What are they? I'm always trying these episodes to for the people listening, going through the same kind of situation as well, right? If we try to finish off with some kind of almost bullet points here, it's like, what are the 3 main kind of lessons you are taking with you from this initial phase of COVID that we're going through?
Recommendations or learnings, or
exactly. So what is the most important actions you have taken or haven't taken that maybe you should have taken, that you feel others could benefit from knowing as well?
I feel like I'm actually impressed by myself, and like how brave I've been. I think I've been more brave than I thought I was gonna be, and just like that extreme business mind connecting on as the heart and the bank account, and you just become like so rational in those situations, and like dare to act have been super important to me, and that's absolutely one learning that you can change. Like every single day, you have a new opportunity to change and to try and to adapt, and that's what you need to do. And I can see, like looking at the cafe, for example, I can absolutely see so many arguments for closing that place down. But I didn't want to do that to my staff. I didn't want to do that to Drop's Heart. And we, like the team we have, and that kind of like, I don't like calling business family, but like we have really been strong together, and everyone is still a part of it, and that was worth all of the money we lost on that cafe. And luckily we managed, like it could have been a hardcore where the cafe couldn't have been covered for by the roastery, of course. But I'm very happy that I didn't listen to those advices yet. And then I think it's so much, Patrick. Like you said 3, like it's so many things you've already changed. It's just this, like when you finally, like when you sit down with somebody, you're present. Like I look at my inbox and it's more, okay, it's either spam because people are, for some reason, I get a lot of, like loose ideas at the moment. But the other ones who are actually emailing at the moment are really writing an email to each other. I find that people are more present and more appreciating each other and each other's time. And when we do finally, like we don't call for a meeting with each other because we should, or because, like the calendars have gone like more flexible. And when we do meet, or that we are ashamed more than ever, like if we don't take responsibility now, you have somebody else falling behind. And in a position when everyone is struggling, we need to hold hands, even if we rather would like to let go a little while and come back later when we're stronger. I actually think that now it's when we do need to hold hands. And I also feel that so many of us are going through, like we're working a lot with our minds and our souls, right? All of that. And I do feel that it's more, we're talking more about health and how we're actually doing. Like it's more real talks going on. And we saw how countries could swap so big things in short time, and we can adapt to most things, and we don't need, all the products that we usually get in the supermarket, and we may not need to cram so many things in. Like it's actually very few things we do need. And that I hope we carry that with us to whatever will be.
I hope so too, and I think it's a beautiful way to kind of wrap this conversation up as well. And it's it's for me, and I think for the other people we've been hosting here on the podcast as well. It's really a red thread in this, in terms that everyone is going back to what you say as well, like the heart of the business, the core of the business. You're defining, this is the most important part for me, right? And I think that's something that is easily forgotten in the kind of business of running a business or trying to grow a business. And I think it's so important that, as you say, we come back to the things that really matters, right? And that's what we're focusing on. And as you say, and as you obviously shown through this COVID-19 as well, that we're respecting the whole value chain, because it is a very big boat and we're all in this together, right? And I think that those that are not understanding the importance of supporting those different aspects are are not benefiting the industry the way that we should, right? We are really in this together. So with that, I want to say thank you for your time, Joanna. It's always a pleasure.
And thank you so much for doing this, Patrick. It's fantastic. I'm looking extremely much forward to hearing the other episodes and land and see how this been for others.
We do have some great episodes, and I'm also looking forward, and I'm hopeful that we can revisit this conversation in a few months as well, to kind of check in on you again and see what's going on. This is very much a continuous challenge for us in the industry. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening. This project has been brought to you by April Media, which is an unfiltered view on the coffee industry powered by our Patreon supporters. We would love it if you share these episodes, subscribe to our channels, and if you want to be a part of building this, please join our Patreon. Thank you again.